struggling past Georgia Tech 14-8. We got NC State on board. Quick about the defense. Hard to fault anything there. They only gave up 309 yards against 72 plays. I will say that they didn't get a turnover, would be about the only fault that I can see in giving up 2.7 yards per carry.
Yeah, that defense played, it was once again outstanding. Third game in a row to start the season without allowing a touchdown. First time Clemson's done that since 1950, I think. And did it without Balin Spector, starting linebacker. He was held out. He had some inflammation in his knee late in the week, didn't feel like he could go. So they started Levanta Bentley, and he first career start, and what a game he had. I mean, I think he led the team in tackles maybe. He was just all over the field. I'm not saying it was perfect by any stretch, but it was very good. I know a lot of people have been waiting for him to get his opportunity to show what he can do. I'm one of those people. I've talked him up for 2 years, and I was finally glad to see him, finally get a chance. These extra year of eligibility for Spector and Skowski's kind of held some of those linebackers back from getting some playing time, and Bentley's one of those guys, and you just can't say enough about this defense. It was really good, and when they needed to stop at the end, they bowed up and stopped them. And James Skowski said today that he played by far his worst game of the season. But right there, last play of the game, fourth down, you got to keep him out the end zone. Who isn't making the play? It's Skowski, and he's so tired. He's got to be up off the field. I mean, he just leaves everything out there. I mean, you just can't say enough about this Brent Venables defense. He's once again proven that he is arguably the best defensive coordinator in the country. And fortunately, they're getting that kind of play from that defense because it's had to carry them so far this season.
Bentley with 13 tackles, Skowski with a total of 9, and Brian Bresci had 1.5 sacks as Clemson keeps Georgia Tech out of the end zone, and that's what they needed, as Jason says, winning 14-8. All right, Jason, now it's on to NC State. They bring back some pretty familiar faces on offense with Bam Knight, who seems like he's been there forever. He's averaging, about 8.5 yards per carry. And, of course, NC State has played 3 games. They beat up on 2 inferior foes. Furman was the last one, 45-7. Had the one challenge against a decent team at Mississippi State, and they were not up to the challenge there. Amika Measy is a really good wide receiver and has been in the ACC. He had 14 catches through the first 3 games. Devin Leary at quarterback. So it's almost certain that they're going to have to score some points this week.
Yeah, when the line came out yesterday and Clemson opened up as a 12.5-point favorite, I had some people tell me they were surprised Clemson was such a heavy favorite, a double-digit favorite, and I'm thinking to myself, well, last week they were 28.5-point favorites. So, when you compare the two, that's a steep drop. And the line's already dropped to 10 or 10.5, I think. So the money must be coming in on North Carolina State. But anyways, coming into the season, I really like this North Carolina State team. I thought it might be Dave Doeren's best team yet. And if Clemson doesn't play any better on offense and they have these first 3 games, they very well could come out of Raleigh with an L in the record book. This is not a team you can go up there and bring your C game and expect to come away with a win, because they're going to bring their A game. There's not a lot of love lost between Dabo Swinney and Dave Doeren. Clemson has dominated this series of late. They haven't lost to North Carolina State since 2011. And a lot of those, there was a 2 or 3 years there where they played some tight ones, but a lot of these games have been blowouts. And, like I said, there's no love lost between Swinney and Doeren. There was stuff about the laptop, towel gate last year, the frosty handshake after the game and stuff. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that'll be a storyline to pay attention to, as that game progresses, especially if North Carolina State were to somehow come off and beat Clemson. I would be very curious to see, how Dave Doeren responds to that, because that would be a big feather in his cap. And this is definitely, if you're a Clemson fan, you got to be a little worried about going up to Raleigh right now. Let's just put it like that.
Sure. And Dave Doeren doesn't have the best record against ranked teams in his career. And as you mentioned, it seems as though there were a couple times. 2016 is obviously the classic example of an NC State team that pushed it to the wire against Clemson. But there were a few other years where NC State was supposed to challenge Clemson, some of those Bradley Chubb teams, and then Clemson just completely annihilated them. So they get together as a 10 or 11 point favorite at Raleigh to take on NC State. And again, we don't know much about the Wolfpack. They have blown out South Florida and Furman, and then they went to Mississippi State and they were down 24-3 quickly before losing that game.
Yeah, I'm like you. I haven't really done a deep dive into North Carolina State yet. I haven't even got to watch them play, if I'm being honest. I've been on the road so much. But it just seems we just don't, even 3 weeks in, we still don't know a lot about them just yet. I think we'll find out a lot this week. And I think we're going to find out a little bit more about Clemson this week, because I know they were caught off guard with that scheme Georgia Tech used on defense. But they better get used to it, so they're going to see more of it. North Carolina State likes to play some 4-2-5 anyways and drop a lot of guys into coverage. So, Clemson's going to have to find a way to run the ball even more successfully than they did last week, because I know they had some success. But, if you look at the numbers, they were no better running the ball against Georgia Tech than Kennesaw State was or Northern Illinois. And to me, that's concerning.
Absolutely. And Jason, I hate to tell you this, but it shouldn't come as a shock to you that the nation's going to be rooting for NC State. It looks like we might have a free-for-all in the Big Ten, that Ohio State may be in some trouble, and Oklahoma's not gotten off to the greatest start in the Big 12. So I think people are looking for more chaos and more competitive races in these conferences. Yeah,
Clemson is by far not the only team that's gotten off to a slow start. Not if we're talking about marquee teams. Ohio State's looked shaky. They've already taken a loss. Oklahoma has not looked anywhere close to being the national title team many pegged them to be before the season started. But, of all those teams, Clemson's looked the worst of all of them. But, there's definitely there's some teams up there at the top of the polls. There's definitely some questions. I expected Alabama to, wipe the floor with Florida the other day. And after getting out to a lead, Florida fought back. I didn't get to see a lot of it, but I watched a good chunk of it during the long lightning delay. And I thought Florida more than held their own on the line of scrimmage in that game, man. I thought they won a lot of the battles up front of the parts of the game that I got to see. And that kind of surprised me. I did not expect to see that. So maybe even Alabama's got a question or two. And I a week ago, I had them as by far and away the best team in the country. But they're a lot of teams, a lot of questions and concerns. And as we all know, America loves the underdog. Clemson, as the casual football fan, always going to want to see a Clemson go down, or Ohio State go down, or Georgia or Alabama. They're tired of seeing the same teams in the playoff every year. They want to see somebody else kick that glass ceiling in there and make a little noise. So, yeah, I imagine a lot of people will be rooting for North Carolina State this weekend.
Yeah. There's only a couple opportunities, even with the lack of performance against Georgia Tech. Still, the way the schedule sets up, it appears just a few opportunities for Clemson to slip up in this one. And this one's been targeted during the offseason. NC State at home against Clemson. We got Jason Priester on the line from allclemson.com on SI. So I encourage everybody to head on over there as Clemson faces one of its toughest tests of the season coming up this Saturday. Jason, we always appreciate you stopping by, breaking down Clemson for us.
My pleasure, man. I enjoyed it.